I will also ask that all commissioners and anyone speaking make sure they speak right into the microphone. That's been a thing. And our first order of business is roll call, because we have a quorum. So let's have a roll call first. Madam, what are you, secretary? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Whitebird.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
Cavell.
Here.
Spiz.
Present.
Charles.
Present.
And Miller is absent with notice. We have a quorum.
Great. Let us stand for the pledge now that we have a quorum. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As we move on to the approval of the minutes, are there any corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes drafted March 2nd, 2022.
Support.
Great, moved and supported. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda at this time?
I'd like to make a change.
Mr. Cavell?
If everyone's okay with it, can we move item G up to item A on the regular agenda?
I'll support that.
Properly noted. Is that an amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So then let us do our voice vote in favor of moving item G to A per the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Support is properly and moved. Motion carries.
So then do we have to do the whole agenda, or as amended, do we care?
How was it?
Was that it?
Depends on
How you phrase it? Okay, we did it. Okay.
As amended.
You're
That's
doing
amended.
great.
You
Don't
are
let us
doing great,
interrupt you.
yes. We're
Thank
going to
you.
keep you honest.
Next, we move into public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the committee? If so, please step on up to speak on topics related to the agenda items, usually limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to address the committee?
I'd like to. I'm trying to access this since I don't see there's a print of the agenda here for the citizens.
It's under,
Thank you.
there's always one on that sign, underneath the sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay, thank you. I did not realize that.
Okay.
Ms. Kennedy, state your name and residence location for the record, please.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Kennedy. I'm from Lake Orion, and I'm extraordinarily concerned by the entire regular agenda that is showing up on this entire council meeting for today. There are quite a few things that I don't understand how we have authority to approve. And even in the water resources where we're doing 10-year contracts with automatic renewals for 10 years. I was unaware this council, this particular committee had the authority to have that kind of an appropriation without an appropriation. At least I couldn't find it. And the fact that someone objected to every single item on this regular agenda through all the water resources, and one of them even referenced the May 13th as the resolution that gave them authority, but I was unable to find the entire May 13th packet on the OakGov website. So that's an entirely different issue. Economic development. It's extraordinarily concerning to me that you have all these proposals for economic development that make no sense. It doesn't benefit our community when you're doing things that are not going to work for the community. This is just not logical. And I'm not even certain, the veteran services where they're trying to do the SMART program, I actually have video that I took at the Auburn Hills Meyer for our new SMART route that was modified January 2nd, 2022. And now, in spite of claiming to be environmentally friendly, we now pick up people all the way downtown Detroit with our SMART bus. And we get paid, the county pays $45 per ride. That seems pretty high for a bus ride to me. I've never really been into buses, but the fact that they modified the entire route to pick up people from downtown Detroit to bring them to Auburn Hills Mire, passing the 8-mile Woodward Mire along the same route that is actually newer than the Mire in Auburn Hills, I find extraordinarily disconcerting. We have no legal authority, I don't believe, to create what I see as a REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. All these resolutions for the housing, this sounds like when I was in the 80s and 70s, the country was almost bankrupt, literally almost bankrupt, because the federal government used to manage low-income housing, whether you realize it or not. You might not be old enough to know. I'm actually
Ms.
old enough
Kennedy,
and
I
paid
want you to
attention.
use your time wisely, so
Thank
these are
you.
items on the agenda.
This is an item on the agenda. We're talking about interlocals and business forward initiatives that are promoting people other than the citizens. And the memorandum of the understanding with the Business Finance Corporation, I'd like to know if that's the SEED, CEED, when we did minority business and put the Women's Business Resource Council in charge for $300,000 for administration to use our $1 million. So I really would like you to cease and desist on all these agenda items that involve housing, that involve the economic development, because they're not based in fact and they're not based in logic, and they are contrary to the best interests of our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you for wrapping up so swiftly there. Is there anyone else from the community that would like to speak during public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We need a motion to receive and file communication items. We have one.
I'll make a motion to receive and file communications.
Thank you. Moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the consent agenda. Just for edification, consent agendas are used in cases in which there are resolutions with agreements that have similar language but need separate resolutions for each community. So with that, I will,
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
great. Moved and seconded. Any,
Thank you.
pull that microphone up just a wee bit there, Mr. Cavell. Any discussion on that?
Yeah.
Seeing none, we will prompt the vote.
So I listened in all
On the consent agenda,
meetings, and if
Yes.
they're not pretty close, it's real garbled. So that's why.
Is that how you want it worded? Okay,
that's why I made it clear.
Oh, okay.
I didn't type anything in yet.
okay.
Wiper?
Aye.
We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us on into the regular agenda. And we need a motion to open report, used to be G, now it's A.
If you refresh your screen, it'll show.
Okay.
Oh,
Look at me using hard copy.
What did we ever do before we had all this technology?
Right.
Really, you know?
So
I look
that
back
takes-
at some of the records from just like 10 years ago, and it was so different.
That takes us into item A, the Business Forward Initiative, if there is a motion to
I'll move it.
open and approve. Is there support? Wonderful. Of course, there's further discussion on the item. I welcome our fellow colleague, Mr. Carlson, and I believe you are the single presenter.
Yes, I'm going to invite, if I could, Ingrid Ty, our Economic Development Director, Laura Dodd, who is one of our division directors, managers, and then also Nilda Thomas, who is running the Business Forward program. They might, I don't know if they want to take the end seats because they'll be twisting their necks, so I don't know if it's appropriate for them to sit at the edges.
Okay.
That would be helpful. Is the presentation voted?
Yes.
Should be, yep.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for moving this agenda item up. I'm up in Lansing at MEDC here this morning, and appreciate your flexibility in moving this item on the agenda. Thank you very much. very excited. You heard a little bit about this program at the State of the County, and we've lifted this Business Forward program off already. As a matter of fact, this Business Forward has come to this commission last June in regards to a phase 1. But now we're moving over to phase 2, and this is an ARPA project, and just wanted to take you through this presentation. I did share this with a working group a couple of weeks ago. Tried to add a few more slides to address some questions that were asked at that time, so hopefully that will hit the mark. If not, certainly welcome questions at the end. So we'll get started right now. Next slide. So the Business Forward program, I think what's really important is as we look at economic development and building a thriving and inclusive economy, there's 2 clusters that we're looking at. We're looking at what's called traded clusters, which predominantly handle manufacturing, transportation, and warehousing, and the construction industries. And then is what we call local clusters, which is our retail stores, our mom and pop restaurants, all of the folks that we helped, the 15,000 companies that we helped during CARES, and made an investment to keep those companies and their livelihood moving forward. So what this Business Forward program is number one, it's mitigating financial hardships from COVID-19, helping local, emerging, and established entrepreneurs take the next step, build resilience with the 15,000 companies that were supported during the CARES phase, design with a focus on companies that have less than 20 employees, outreach in the community where the business is located. Our past programs that we've had at the county, we've had outreach, but it occurred up in the county office building. So we are moving out into the different regions where we can help these small mom and pop businesses that sometimes may find it very difficult to make a 10, 20, or 30-mile commute when they're trying to run their stores as well. We're also trying to respond to identified areas of economic distress by the Economic Outlook report that we've got from our economists based on facts, and then increase the number of minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses as well. So those are the priorities. The bolded areas are really addressing a couple of factors that are requirements by Treasury, U.S. Department of Treasury, in regards to the expenditure of ARPA funds. So that's why those 2 bullets are highlighted. Next slide. So I think what's important in the Economic Outlook report that was delivered by our economist last year, and they identified 8 areas in Oakland County. They called this PUMA areas, public use microdata areas. And you can see, and this talks about a 3-person equivalent household income. So this has guided our thinking and our direction in economic development so that we are with purpose as we're moving about to accomplish our objectives in economic development. And you can see the bottom 4 lines represent the West Oakland County. The line just below that, I believe, is South Central, Farmington and Southfield. We also have Southeast, and then we also, on the bottom there, is Central outside Birmingham and Bloomfield. If we go to the next slide, this highlights the 8 regions so you get an idea. So this was not our regions that we put together. This is, again, the University of Michigan economists that put together our annual economic report. This is how the 8 regions broke down. So I think this is important to understand and see a map, similar maps later in the presentation address this. Next slide. One of the other things that we looked at that formed our thinking were industries identified by our Economic Outlook report that have not fully recovered. When we do expenditures of ARPA funds, we want to be very conscientious about lifting up those that have not fully recovered. You can see in the stars the areas that are not fully recovered that this Business Forward is designed to support. So you'll notice that other manufacturing is in there as well, because we're not going to turn our back on some mom and pop manufacturers as well. Even though there's full recovery, at least suggested by the economists, we know that there's supply chain issues that are wreaking havoc as well, and making sure that we're supporting that supply chain base and ecosystem is important to us as well. But you can see that accommodation and food services, retail trade, private health and social services, transportation, equipment, manufacturing are all identified areas in regards to incomplete recovery. So that's our business forward is focused around those industries. If we go to the next slide. This is a breakdown from the report of establishments with fewer than 50 employees. So we can see lower wage services and blue collar. Now these are establishments, they're not the number of employees. So the number of establishments less than 50. We're talking about industries that are considered to be lower wage services for the most part. Next slide. This slide is to give you a perspective that we have 39,000 businesses, small businesses in Oakland County. Small businesses are the backbone not only of our nation, but also the state as well as Oakland County. This is a breakdown to give you an idea that less than 5 employees, we've got 20,000 businesses out there that are less than 5 employees. We've got 12,000 companies that are 5 to 19. Just a shade under 4,000 for those that are 20 to 50, and then you can see the remainder breakdown. So our focus is really going to be on that less than 20 with this Business Forward program in regards to small businesses. Next slide. This guides our thinking because disparate impact for communities. And so this is a highlight of showing the poverty rate in different areas. And although Oakland County leads the state and is the tip of the spear in regards to GDP, more GDP is produced out of our county than any other county, even though we are not the most populous. It's important for us to continue to be aggressive and lean forward with our economic development plans and support our small businesses. So that they can support our communities. It's important to invest in our ecosystem, but this guides our thinking in regards to poverty that exists, and we're trying to rise up all areas of Oakland County. Next slide. Part of the guidepost for us over in the executive office is making sure that any project that we bring in front of the Board of Commissioners, that it's transformational, it's measurable in regards to effectiveness, and an outsized impact. So we ask ourselves these questions. Does this program leverage county strength and or our economic potential? The answer is yes, and I will provide further details and information to that. Does the investment target elimination of barriers and or reduction in disparities? Yes, it does. Does the investment align with community objectives and key performance indicators? We want to make sure that all our initiatives are aligned with our goals so that we're not misaligned and that we know what we're aiming for and what direction we're going in. Is there a projected return on investment? Yes. Is the program designed to support industries impacted by COVID? The answer is yes. Next slide. So Business Forward aligns with our county goals of a thriving and inclusive economy, our community objectives, the community objectives, business investment. It has direct alignment there. It also has direct alignment in regards to our efforts to help grow minority and women-owned businesses, and also in regards to labor force participation. Also, when we look at our economic development departmental KPIs of average household income in county regions, as well as the number of employers served by workforce development programs, it is directly aligned with those KPIs and community objectives. Next slide. One of the things that we want to make sure is that we analyze our industry and mitigating COVID's potential negative impact on the county's GDP by supporting local cluster industries. Again, you've heard me talk about local and traded clusters. The average amount of local clusters nationwide is 64. And then the traded clusters is the reciprocal of that, which would be 36, I believe. So in Oakland County, our local clusters make up 62%. So we're pretty much aligned to what the U.S. looks like. And when you have a thriving economy and the amount of GDP that is producing, you will see a healthy diversification between the traded clusters and the local clusters here. So $105 billion is what the county's GDP is, which represents, again, 20% of Michigan's GDP. 1/5 of the GDP comes from one county, and that's us. Local clusters make up 62% of this GDP. The number of people employed in our local cluster businesses is around 346,000. The number of companies with less than 20 employees, which is our target, is 32,000 companies. And again, we're going to be looking to target 6,000 companies per year for the next 5 years with this proposal. Next slide. Again, we're targeting 6,000 small businesses annually. Of course, these numbers will vacillate when we get into them. Nilda's probably having a heart attack right now because it's 4,000 and now it's 6. We're asking for, we're going to intend to make sure that we have folks in some of the other regions that currently don't have folks in those respective areas. 500 potential entrepreneurs. What are potential entrepreneurs? Those are companies that are looking to get started. We want to be able to help them take the right steps, get going, and start creating economic activity for themselves as well. And we want to make sure that Oakland County is a home to new entrepreneurs. 2,000 emerging entrepreneurs. What are we talking about emerging? We're talking about companies that have opened up in the last 3 to 4 years and need support, need help in various ways, not just money, services. And that's what this program's about as well. And we'll get into that. 3,500 established entrepreneurs. We're talking about small businesses that might have been around more than 5 years, 5 to 7 years or longer. Maybe they own a restaurant in one community and are thinking about opening up a restaurant in another community. How can we help them, these established entrepreneurs, grow and in turn grow jobs? Next slide. So the return on investment for this program, we're asking for, you've already passed $3 million. So we're asking for the continuation of that $3 million plus another $15 million for the next 5 years. That breaks down to $3.6 million per year investment, which will in turn create a $33.25 million annual economic impact. That's a $9.24 to every dollar that's invested in this program. This is a very, very conservative return on investment. So what I'm saying here in this graph is if we help 500 potential entrepreneurs and our hit ratio is only 10, we're able to impact 50 of those businesses and create one job for that business. In this sphere, based upon the economic outlook for low-wage services, 35,000 is the average low-wage services based on our economic outlook report that was provided by our economists last year. The annual economic impact to the potential entrepreneurs line would be 1.75 million. Emerging entrepreneurs would be 7 million, and established entrepreneurs would be 24.5. I'd like to draw your attention to the number of jobs created on the established entrepreneurs. We are conservatively saying that if we help 350 of those, that's only a 10% hit ratio. I expect our hit ratio to be much higher than that, but to take a very conservative approach to this, of saying that if we hit 10% of those established entrepreneurs and create 2 jobs, help them create 2 more jobs at $35,000. This is the annual economic impact that will have. So you could see, again, well worth the money. Next slide. Nilda, she's at the end of the table. This is one of the reasons that I can say with a fair amount of confidence that hit ratio is going to be a lot higher. She's got years of experience in this place. She is off and running. She's got a great team and a lot of energy, and expect great things from this program. Next slide. Our phase 1, just remind everybody, that was embedding business forward consultants in the community, in those underserved communities throughout the county, providing business resources to small businesses throughout the county, training and workshops, and then also taking a proactive outreach to the 15,000 small businesses that received assistance during the CARES phase. So we have that list. We're reaching back out to those companies and making sure that we protect that investment that we made during CARES. Next slide. You can see in this graph demonstrates where our consultant locations are at. You can see the low-income communities have a dashed line through them. So you can see Rosetown and Holly, and you can see the west area. So we do have a location there, but you can also see up in the northeast corner and also the midsection on the east side as well as Walled Lake and Novi area, and the Kego Harbor, Bloomfield, and Birmingham, that we do not have representation in those areas at this time. This phase 2 will help us put folks in there. But I just wanted to show you what phase 1 is at and up and running already as of January. Next slide. This is the Business Forward team that's on the ground and working as we speak. Next slide. Business Forward Phase 2 will embed 5 Business Forward consultants to provide direct outreach. Additional consultants could be hired if CVTs, our cities, villages, and townships, decide to utilize matching funds. So we know a lot of communities receive matching funds. It's our intention to go out to them and see where they would like. And no matter what, we'll have a consultant in that region. But if, for instance, the city of Rochester Hills decides that they want to use some of their money to also join in the program, then we might have somebody that's exclusively helping that community. Training and workshops, the same thing that I mentioned up in phase 2. And again, the proactive outreach to the 15,000 small businesses. Next slide. So you can see our proposal would be for the phase 2 consultant locations, and those are designated on the map in the color blue. Next slide. What's also very, very important to this program is not just the human resources and the consultants that are out there helping and supporting those, but we also intend to hire 20 to 25 professional service providers per region in these 8 regions. We're expecting to hire marketing firms, attorneys, accountants to provide these services to these businesses that need that help and that direct assistance. When we talked to the commissioners last year, we all understood that providing grant dollars was the best thing to do during CARES. It was decided that this next round, helping these small businesses, it would be more worth it to provide services to these small businesses. And that's exactly what we're looking to do. So we would be hiring 160 to 200 businesses throughout Oakland County to provide professional services. Next slide. We're looking at services that would provide legal support, entity setup, legal basics, business tax basics, accounting and finance, QuickBooks, Capital Rise, seed lending, financial projections. Next slide. Business operations, 5 steps to networking mastery, how to access resources for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, grant writing, advanced tech companies, exporting and importing. That's probably more for our established entrepreneurs than it would be for an emerging entrepreneur, but those are some of the courses that we'll be setting up and sessions. Next slide. Marketing basics, e-commerce basics, marketing magic for your business, search engine optimization. Next slide. Human resources, employee recruitment, workforce development. A lot of our mom and pop organizations, they don't have HR. If there's some way that we can provide a little bit of support for them, that would be great. And then also IT, information technology. We added this as a category because we believe retail trade is in a very precarious situation. If you're in retail trade and you're not on the internet, your business is at extreme risk. And for us to try to lead the way and help those small businesses get online and get their services, we've got a lot of great small mom and pop retail businesses in each one of our communities. We've got great downtown businesses and downtown communities in Oakland County, but we want to make sure that we help them make sure that they're here for years to come. Next slide. We are using SourceLink as a CRM, a customer relationship management, so that we can keep track of all the businesses that we have helped to make sure that we're hitting that target and that we understand how often they're using our resources, what classes that they're taking, what adjustments that we might need to make along the way to bend the curve if it's not going in the direction that we need. So we're looking at SourceLink as that CRM tool that is part of this as well. And I think that might be the last slide. Myself and Ingrid Ty and Laura Dodd and Nilda Thomas are happy to answer any questions that this committee may have for us.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Carlson, for that presentation. And just as a recap, because I know we've got some questions on the floor, at least I think they'll be here when I look at that screen, but that this is a resolution for approval of $15 million from the ARPA for Phase 2 for the Business Forward program. And it is also an extension to continue the program past the initial one-year timeline. So with that, questions from members of the committee? Mr. Spiz?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sean. A couple quick questions, and I'm not sure who's going to answer them, but from a timing perspective, because I know Phase 2, you're looking to hire those additional resources. When is that expected to take place? The reason I'm asking, because in that northeast corner, there's going to be a resource that's going to be added, and I have already received questions on this program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
So there's two things, and then I'll toss it to the team and Ingrid to answer the question. So number one, just so you know, our current Business Forward folks are helping those other regions. They're not doing necessarily proactive outreach, but as companies are calling in, they are providing support. So I wanted to make sure that we make that known. And number two is, if we get the approval from the Board of Commissioners, we already have some candidates, and we'll put out a search for more candidates and get at that right away. Ingrid, do you want to add anything?
Oh, no, you hit on it. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, great, thank you. And Sean, you touched on a topic, because I did get some feedback that some businesses were concerned that they would not be supported by this. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and hoping from what you said that confirms that. And I'm hoping that, I know the target's 20, but I know there's some businesses out there that are above that 20 employee mark that are looking for assistance. So I'm hoping, and I'm requesting that they are continuing to get supported where they need supported. And I'm also looking for is if we get anybody that comes to the Economic Development Department for assistance across the county, no matter minority owned or not, that they're getting support that they're requesting from the department. Because when I heard that comment, I was concerned.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah, I mean, so let me, our target, like I said, of 20 is we'll be looking at our list and reaching out, but we are not going to turn away a small business that might happen to be over 50 employees or at 35 employees. We're not going to say, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to help you. Now, we might be aggressively outreaching to those that are less than 20, but if somebody hears a workshop and they come in, we're not going to say, no, this isn't for you because, you know, you're not less than 20 employees. So I want to make sure that that's understood as well. So.
All right. Thank you for that. And my final question is reporting, because I know you in the first presentation you had some KPIs, et cetera. When can we as a Board of Commissioners expect to see some of the outputs from this program? You know, it was something we can expect on a quarterly basis, every 6 months. I was hoping more than annual, you know, to see some type of input.
So we certainly, I mean, there's some quarterly data that we'll certainly be able to provide with that, with our CRM tool in regards to the companies that we're reaching out to. So our target is 6,000. I would expect us to come on a quarterly basis, give you a breakdown of the companies that we have helped and where they're at and what their situation is and the demographics around that to make sure that we're hitting that target. In regards to the business investment, that's usually an annual number that we're looking at. So some of those community objectives are on an annual basis, and as well as some of the departmental KPIs. But there's other metrics that we certainly can provide on a quarterly basis in regards to the benefits of this program and the outputs.
Great, thank you for that. One of the things I'm hoping to see is that hit ratio, because I know it's a swag, and I know you're looking to get over that 10%, but I'd be intrigued on where we actually hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Markham?
Thank you. This is a very interesting presentation. I'm really excited to see us focusing on business development of the really small businesses and really help them grow while continuing to stabilize the little bit bigger businesses. Two questions that I have. One is, how are we communicating to the businesses that this is available? You know, I'm running my little coffee shop out there in the strip mall. How do I know that Oakland County is there for me to just pick up the phone and go, you know, can you help me with some marketing? How do they know that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that. So first and foremost, we have already been actively engaging and working with all of our community stakeholders. So we have engaged with all the Chamber of Commerce presidents and their staff, all the downtown directors, city managers, the elected officials from all of these various communities to make them aware of these. We have already received lists, active target strategic lists of all the companies and businesses that are in their communities. So Nilda and her group have already done outreach. They're already talking and going out, and they're actually also knocking on doors. They're walking into businesses. They're going up and down main streets and introducing themselves. And then the additional strategy to that is then we have a marketing team here led by Laura Dodd. So they're proactively putting together marketing on various channels, social media, print, newspaper, all the different channels to get the word out about this service. And then it's going to also be continued word of mouth and referrals from all these community leaders, because we also want to make sure we're hitting those that might not have a brick and mortar location, right? Those that are operating out of a basement or a garage, trying to get a business up and running. We call that sometimes the side hustle. So that's going to be through our relationships through all these organizations. So we are leveraging every single partnership and stakeholder that we have out there.
Okay, great.
Sure. I saw your hand first, and then Mr. Cavell.
Well, I have one other question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So all of this support of the businesses is really great, and especially the smaller businesses, but I wonder how we're supporting the employees and how they're hiring. I mean, I don't want to support a restaurant that's, you know, not treating their employees right? So how... I mean, we can't say, okay, every business we support is going to have a $15 minimum wage, but you get what I'm getting at. I want to make sure that those businesses that we support are supporting the people that are working for them and not just, you know, profit is everything. You know what I'm saying? Do we have guidelines as to how to, you know, properly compensate and retain our employees and the benefits piece of that? Are they getting their health care through the Affordable Care Act, or is the company providing it? What structure exists in this program to kind of ask those questions or help businesses be healthy businesses that have happy employees?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. It's not like we're going out and, asking for a survey of what they're paying their workers and so forth as we're approaching. We're going to help companies. But the source link and the training that we talked about, one area that we've added, in the past in the CARES, what we did is we did get attorneys and we did get some financial assistants and accountants to help some folks. But the reality of it is there are some businesses out there that are unfamiliar with some HR rules. And so we added that as a category. They're not sure that they need to post certain things, in the break room in regards to the Fair Labor Standards Act. I mean, there's certain things and knowledge that isn't out there. So I don't think that people are necessarily acting in a bad faith. We also know that there's a lot of companies that experience difficult time because they don't pay their taxes on a quarterly basis, and then they get hit with penalties. They can hardly afford those penalties. So raising the business acumen and providing these training and workshops will be very important for them to understand and to become good employers for the community. So I think it's an education awareness gap, and we're certainly trying to address that. And then I would invite Nilda or Ingrid or Laura to say anything as well.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to add to that is, so part of this relationship is working with various stakeholders, so one of whom is Jennifer Llewellyn and all of our Michigan Works offices. So all of our consultants are connected to the closest respective Michigan Works office and their team to make sure that they are doing referrals as appropriate, bringing in education and webinars and seminars to their locations to make sure that people get access to that information.
I have a lot of respect for our Michigan Works offices. I have personal experience watching some folks go through it, and I think that that's really the right connection to be made. I guess I'd like to down the way see some metrics in terms of pay, benefits, et cetera, that because people want to work for a good employer, and employers want loyal employees. So what are we doing to help that over the long term? I don't expect an answer in 3 months, but it's something I think we need to be thinking about as the government supporting the businesses in our areas. That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Markham. Commissioner Weipert?
Thank you. Sean, just to follow up, and I know you're the chambers, the CVTs, the main streets, but I mean, we also have we passed out CARES money to thousands of businesses, and it's in your plan that we're going to proactively outreach to 15,000 small businesses that received the CARES money. We already have the lists of lots of those businesses that receive CARES, and I was on some of those committees. They were not only looking for grant money during that time, they were also looking for this education, looking for those resources. So we were in the position of passing on grant money, but they were looking for what this next phase is going to bring. So I'm glad we already have that list of 15,000, and that's a great source.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's already proactively been put in the hands of our current team to actively work that list.
Mr. Cavell, then Mr. Spiz.
Yeah. Sean, I know you got to go in 2 minutes, so, do you have a question just for Sean?
Keep it short.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
Charlie's never short.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, cool. Well, so a couple of quick questions. So I want to echo what Gwen said you said a lot about jobs, but again, emphasis on high-paying and good jobs, livable wages. I did not see a lot of that, and I understand because part of the focus of working with entrepreneurs with 20 employees or less is you're kind of all in it together. I can understand that. But again, if there's any fix you can do to that or focus you can make on that, or like Gwen said, emphasis on data towards that end, that'd be much appreciated.
Okay.
I got a question about the DDA chamber outreach. I talked to our local chamber, South Oakland Chamber. They really don't like this because this feels like competition to them. Totally understand. Talked to the DDA, though, and they really like this, which, again, also totally understand. But the question I have is there any institutionalized feedback that you're trying to create, like a feedback loop that, there's an advisory board that, wouldn't be mucked up with us politicians, but, the Ferndale DDA, the Holly Corridor Improvement Authority, something that you can make sure you're pivoting when you need to, quickly and efficiently?
Well, so one of the things that we're doing is meeting on a regular basis, each of the consultants and Nilda and her team with all these leaders on a regular basis, expected that they will have this one source information to talk about which companies they're meeting with, what are the results, what's coming out of it, what additional referrals, what are some of the key barriers that they're seeing bubble up that we need to address. So it's going to be open communication. Every territory, I think, is going to be different, right, depending on if they're rural or more urban-based. So I think you're going to see different training and different issues evolve. So we're really keeping it more at the local level, but it is expected that regular, frequent communication is required. And we've told our partners to be honest and open about what's working well and where we need to improve.
Okay, understood that. Second question, I can keep this the last one for you, Sean. There was that $3 million EDA grant y'all got, and then we added $1 million to it. Does this play a part in that? And also, is there thoughts on some of this $15 million or more funding coming before us about how to support those entrepreneurs financially? I like that you're doing professional services, and I like that you're retaining firms to make sure there's a tight feedback loop there of being able to provide those services. But are you going to give some of these entrepreneurs money or access to loans? Right, that is the seed, but yeah.
Yeah, the money that SEED has is certainly designed to support our small businesses and what they need. And of course, we've got other programs too in regards to loans. In regards to the economic development category, we're looking at 4 programs. One has to do with the business forward. The other one has to do with manufacturing. The third one is revolving loan fund. And then the fourth one has to do with site readiness. So those are the 4 programs. This is the first one that you as the Board of Commissioners are seeing. So it is our intent to add some more money to the revolving loan fund to support our entrepreneurs in Oakland County.
So you saying that, though, it doesn't sound like you're planning to put direct money being available to this population of entrepreneurs at this time, right?
Oh, no. I mean, we would certainly triage companies who come in and talk to our consultants over to SEED and encourage them to reach out and go through that process. We also have been sitting down with Huntington Bank in regards to developing an entrepreneur program as part of the Community Reinvestment Act. So revolving loan is very much something that we're encouraging this community if they need it, to investigate and take a look at it. But what I'm saying is the money that we're asking for in this resolution, none of it is designated for revolving loan fund.
Right, understood. And the only reason I'm pushing back on this a little bit is the seed fund is $50 to $200K in loans. But if you're working with folks that might only need $15,000, but you're saying there is thought to making sure
Yes.
you're meeting the need below 50. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Cavell. Are there any other questions or comments, Mr.
I have just a question. John, I'm not sure you need to stick around for this. If you got to get somewhere, I'm sure these 3 young ladies can help answer them.
Yeah, these ladies are very, very capable. I'll just muck up things, so I'm going to turn it over to them. So thank you very much for putting me first on the agenda. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck up there.
Thank you.
My question is I'm trying to get a good picture between where the consultants, what's their job description? Actually, I'd like to get a copy of it if I could. And where these professional services we're going to hire. And on top of that, are we going to hire, because we say hire, or are we going to contract with those professional services, which is, to me, is different. So are they going to be on our payroll, or are they going to be contracted through purchasing as a resource?
Yeah, so good questions. And when he said hire, I thought, it's the first time I'm hearing hire. Contract, yes, contract with those. And the way we're looking at it is the business forward consultants who are full-time Oakland County folks are really the general practitioners. So they're meeting with the business to figure out what they need, and then they're referring them to whichever specialist is appropriate. So if Nilda's team meets with a business who really is struggling with access to capital, then she's going to help them get to those banks that she needs to get to, or if there's a revolving loan fund, that sort of thing. Another business they meet with may find we've got some real significant HR problems here. She's then going to connect them to the HR specialist to really dig into what that is. And the funds allocated with that are going to go to pay for those services for a certain number of hours. So if we're working, if a business needs to work with an HR professional for 30 hours, we're not going to pay for 30 hours. But if they need, 4 to 6 to come up with a plan to move forward, that's what those dollars will pay for. They'll also pay for larger scale workshops and programs that are, if we have 15 businesses that need QuickBooks 101, we're going to put them all in a training with a consultant to be able to do QuickBooks 101 and kill more birds with a stone than a one-on-one.
And if I may to elaborate on my question again, because one of the things I'm hearing through the grapevines is, because everybody's familiar with what One Stop Shop did, right? And they're comparing these two. And one of the things they're worried about is One Stop Shop would sit down with them and actually help them fill out some documentation, because they may look at a piece of paper and say, crap, I don't know how to fill that out at all. I've never done something like this. And by just pushing them off to another organization, that's not helping that problem, because they're going to have the same documents to fill out. So will our consultants be able to say, okay, yeah, we know maybe somehow, I would like experts, but we might not be able to do that. Say, okay, this is how we need to fill this out. Will you say, hold their hand to get them through that initial step so they can work with those outside companies?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and just to elaborate on that, so all of the professionals that you saw that were up on the screen, that picture, everyone has different backgrounds, marketing, retail, manufacturing, small franchise ownership, but they all have the common thread that they are or were a small business owner, so they have experience. So it's the idea that they are a generalist, they understand, they can sit down like a general practitioner, if it was a doctor, do the basic diagnosis, and then referrals to specialists. So, for instance, so Nilda sits down, let's say, with a small business, identifies that this person needs basic business planning, finance 101. Then we leverage our relationship with the Small Business Development Center, who do have these exact counselors that actually many of our one-stop shop people came from a Small Business Development Center themselves. So then we make sure that they sit down with that person, then they get all those hours that they need and all that help. We continue to follow up and project manage that person, that business through the process, and then we can continue to connect to all these additional resources throughout the life cycle, if you will.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Somebody's singing back here.
Thank you for that elaboration. Were there any more questions from commissioners? Yes, go ahead. Mr. Bell.
I've only been here for a year, so I don't know if this is par for the course, but I do feel kind of dumb voting for something that just on the line item just says 15 million. So there's a deeper breakdown you can offer us, right? Or is it?
I was going to say that there should be, finance was supposed to submit something.
Well,
There's like a schedule, but it just says
it's
there's
a
like,
one-line item.
yeah, it just
But I
says
thought-
17 million. It's 2.5 we gave you, and 15 million more. And not to get all in your business, but that's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be to the dollar, but
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Thanks.
Subcategories, basically.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, that,
Which I
3 or
thought I
4
saw
things
somewhere.
that show
I
the
thought
buckets.
you
Yeah.
did too.
Maybe it was in the previous presentation that we sat through
Yeah.
with Sean.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But that's why I saw that somewhere, because that simple question was asked, but a great question.
Thanks.
Not a dumb question.
Thanks.
Well, appreciate that, Mr. Cavell. I think it's going to take a moment to queue up, and I don't have my handy Robert's Rule Book right now to refer myself to, which means, can we come back to this? But it's an open motion.
I mean, my recommendation, Charlie's got an open question, which is fine, but this is going to the board. This is just a committee to put it on the board agenda. So once it's on the board agenda,
They got like a week to
we can
figure it
still
out.
ask this question.
Their job
So they have a
description.
week to figure out this information.
I like it.
And then if we
They
don't
can
get what we
provide it.
want, or Charlie doesn't get what we want, we can always pull it off that agenda.
Right.
And wait till we get that information
you got it.
before we vote on it.
I think that's a
how
very
I recommend.
astute way to handle it, Mr. Spiz. Thank you so very much.
And that's why we have committee week one week
well,
and the
right.
board meeting the next
Right.
week, so that some of those details can get worked out, that get asked in committee.
Cool. Okay, so
There is sort of a sequence to all of this,
natural rhythm, yeah, right.
There is.
Perfect. Thank you.
I guess my only, and Charlie, I don't know if you were looking for this, maybe one other way is to make sure we put it on a regular agenda versus consent if it comes out of here unanimous.
Sure.
Just to make sure it gets talked about.
All right.
Let's do that for
So
sure. then.
noted.
Yeah.
You can make the motion.
To move to make sure it's on the regular agenda?
That'll be the
No,
motion,
I-
you just gotta ask for it.
Yeah, it's been noted, and I think
Cool.
we'll all be aware of it. So,
Cool.
with that, just last call in terms of any questions or further comments. I'm going to hold mine just because of the lateness of the hour. They're more in terms of the how than the what. So I will just check with you guys offline. But with that, why don't we prompt the vote?
Lightfoot,
Yes.
you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Economic Development folks. You may be sticking around, but we'll go then into item B. I will need a motion to open that report. Transfer of easements from Oakland County to Highland Township.
Support.
Moved and supported. Our presenters look like they are ready to go. So thank you so much. Please state your name, although we do see it, so you don't have to state your name, and a little bit of what you've come to share with us today. Thank you. That's Amy or John, and you're both muted. Looks,
John, you're still muted.
yeah.
Still muted, John.
Hey, thank you.
Cool.
Have a poster board. You're muted.
He's still muted.
That's cool, okay.
There he goes.
There you are, Mr. Bash, I believe.
Yes, thank you.
You are reverberating, so somehow you're getting,
Amy's got it.
I'm trying to fix that.
Okay.
Got two speakers on, so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he'll have to turn the volume.
John, are you still on the phone? Maybe mute that.
I've muted the phone.
Okay.
that's good.
Actually, I just
There you go.
There you go.
That's good.
deleted it all together. Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Proceed. Thank you, ladies. You may start, Mr. Bash, with your presentation.
So if you can still hear me, this is a transfer of the last of the easements from the county to Highland Township. This started in 2019. These remaining few easements were not transferred because they were encumbered by debt. That debt has been resolved. Highland Township has agreed to take over that debt, and that information is in your packet. And if you have any technical questions about that, Amy Pluff, one of our chief engineers, is here to help you with that.
Thank you so very much. Hopefully you can hear us just fine. Okay, just wanting to make sure everyone can hear. So we've got in front of us the easements for Oakland County to Highland Township. As was stated, there are no longer any outstanding bonds or indebtedness. Are there any comments or questions from
I
the?
apologize, my audio has given up the
You
ghost.
entered no digits. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
I have no additional questions. It's something we've been doing
Okay,
for.
all right. As soon as he gets his audio back, he'll say, we voted already.
Yeah.
So then with that, why don't we prompt the vote?
Pound or hash sign.
Lightfoot?
Yes.
You have
5 yeas, 0 nays.
5 yeas,
Thank you.
0 nays, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Pluff. Next, we have item C under the regular agenda, City of Pleasant Ridge Operations and Maintenance Agreement for its water system. We need a motion. Spiz and Cavell. Mr. Lewis, Ben Lewis is here. I will offer the floor to you, sir. You can tell us a little bit about what the item is today.
Yes, the item today before you is a request that was made to us by Pleasant Ridge to assume the operation and maintenance of their water, well, in this case, their water system. We met with them several times, went over what was going to be required, and agreed that we could add them to our O&M system, and that's what we have before you. It will be operated just like we do all of the other CVTs, with a budget that they approve, and we work under that to reimburse all of our costs.
Thank you for your report. Mr. Spiz.
Yeah, this is just a general question, Mr. Lewis. From a financial perspective, since I have a little bit of history with some of these contracts with other municipalities, are they handing over a current fund balance to us to manage for them from a funding perspective, or how is all that going to work? Or are we starting with zero?
No, we've established, I haven't got the amount in front of me, but an amount that is sufficient for us to begin work on their system. So we'll be reimbursed just as we do with the other communities. We will charge them as we go. We'll make quarterly reports that the communities will see. If the funds run short, then we will ask for additional funds.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cavell.
Yeah, Ben, do you know how Pleasant Ridge will be paying for this? Will it be through their water rates, or I believe, don't they have like a water millage?
Yes, it will be through their water rates.
Okay. Do you have any like cost estimate as to what the impact on the ratepayers will be? Or that's a Pleasant Ridge question?
I do not. That would be a Pleasant Ridge question. We don't set the rates.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question. Are we going to need any additional resources at the Water Resource Commissioner to handle this O&M, or are we going to use existing resources?
We feel that right now we have the existing resources to be able to take care of this. We've met with the water departments, yes.
Terrific. Thank you for answering those questions. I guess my question just simply is, why do we do this? Why does the Water Resource Commission get involved in these types of things?
Well, we operate in many communities in Oakland County. In this case, Pleasant Ridge came to us. They had, the city of Royal Oak was doing their maintenance, but really doing minimal maintenance. And what we're set up to follow state regulations to make sure that all requirements are met by the state and protect the water systems. That's what we do. We're in the business of that. Their request, and we have the resources to help them. And
well, I thank you for that answer. I know it might have seemed a little aloof, but I'm actually asking it from the sense of our community members who may just not have that close awareness of it. So that's a great response, because we can handle it and we do a darn good job of it, and therefore communities are happy to work with us in that capacity. And so there is no general fund impact for the county in terms of liability for the cost of operating, maintaining, repairing, replacing, or even administering the water system. So it seems like a kind of a no-brainer. Mr. Weipert, did I see you indicate? Anyone else for questions or comments? With that, then, Madam Secretary, please prompt the vote.
Weipert?
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. That takes us to item D under regular agenda. Is there a motion to
Move it.
open that? Spiz and Cavell in that order. Looks like our same teammates up on the screen. Please proceed.
Yes, this is goes along with the request for the water. As we do in many communities, we operate water and sewer systems in the city of Pleasant Ridge, and requested that we also include the sanitary sewer system. We reviewed it with our sewer maintenance unit, and we believe that we have the equipment and resources to be able to perform the work.
Thank you, sir. Questions from Members of the board?
Just a quick question. So where does the sewer system go to? Does this go to, is part of Gliwa? Is it somewhere else? Where does it discharge into? Pontiac?
It discharges into our southeastern system. So it's another system we operate and maintain, and eventually it finds its way down to the Gliwa.
Okay, thank you.
wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Great question. Anything else? Nothing further. Please prompt the vote. City of Pleasant Ridge Sewer.
Whitebird?
Yes.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. We go then to item 9E, which I'll take a motion to open that report. Ms. Markham, is there support? Mr. Spiz, thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Lewis, with your report on Bald Eagle Lake drain bonds.
I would have to turn that over to Jeff Wilson if he is here.
Sorry about that.
He was. There he is.
Aboard, we have Laura Bassett as well with Dickinson Wright. She's bond counsel on this issue. And so the short answer for why we're here again is to update the date on a full faith and credit pledge. And I'll give you a little bit more explanation on what this is and why this is helping out the residents. The Bald Eagle Lake drain is in Brandon and Groveland townships, and the board's usually familiar with Chapter 20 drain. This is a Chapter 4 drain, Michigan Drain Code, and it's an assessment district drain. So what that means is the residents are paying for projects and maintenance out of direct assessments. And the drain serves as the outlet to Bald Eagle Lake, which is near M15 and Glass Road up near Ortonville. And this drain also picks up local drainage. So the assessment district is made up of people that live on the lake and people that are off the lake that drain into it. And it ultimately outlets into the Kearsley Creek. And collapses of this drain in the past, so it's a pipe network that this drain is an enclosed storm sewer system. Collapses of the drain in the past prompted flooding on the lake and also in some of the surrounding areas. The residents petitioned for this project. Last year, we came before the board, and the board had pledged its full faith and credit to allow this assessment district, the residents in this assessment district, 10 years to repay the project costs. The project was originally scheduled for 2021 construction. It got delayed and has since come in over estimate by about 25%. But because of some of the at-larges and entities that won't be included in the bond sale, we're not asking to increase the amount of the full faith and credit pledge. We're only looking to update the date on it. So by updating the date, you then allow us to proceed to a bond sale to then allow the residents 10 years to repay their drain assessments for this project.
Okay. I was waiting for the close, and I'll take questions now. Mr. Weipert?
Yeah, this already came through us once. We already approved it. So it was just, what was the nature of the delay?
Seems to be the trend.
I'm sorry, did you say what's the reason for the delay?
Yeah, what was the nature of that delay? I mean, I know this was the 2,000-foot pipe. We already approved it once, and then.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so 2011, we thought we were going to be able to go out to bid, and we were waiting to receive the final permit from Michigan DOT. There's going to be a jack and bore crossing of M15, and they actually had significant comments on the permit. It required a lot more information and a much larger impact, which required a much bigger traffic control plan and some additional borings and a little bit of redesign in there. So that ended up delaying us by about 8 months. But we did finally go out to bid and receive bids March 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Cavell.
I know we're running short on time, so my apologies, but if you could give me just a crash course in how drain bonds work in like 30 seconds. Reading through this, the residents of Brandon Township are taking an assessment to help pay back the bond, so their property taxes will go up? And they all petitioned to have that happen? Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, that's correct. It was petitioned, and these are considered drain assessments. And so they come with the winter taxes.
Okay.
And yes, it was petitioned by the residents.
So then you said costs will go up, or expected costs went up by 25%. Will the residents have to feel that burden, and/or do they know about that yet?
Yes, that's correct. And on March 24th, there was a day of review of apportionments and project costs. So that was all presented to them. So not only did they get a letter, but there was also a hearing for it as well. And the residents of the assessment district were all notified their amounts, and that they will have a 10-year period to pay it back.
Okay. Do you like this? Okay.
Thank you for your questions, commissioners. And if there's nothing further, I'll go ahead and have the secretary prompt the vote.
Whiteberg?
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Doesn't get old. All right, moving along. Item 9F. City of Sylvan Lake Operations and Maintenance Agreement for its water system. I'll take a motion to open and approve. Mrs. Markham, Mr. Cavell. Make sure I got my names together today. John Bash and Ben Lewis are here. So, gentlemen, you have the floor.
I can go. Yes, this is similar to Pleasant Ridge. We were approached by Sylvan Lake to operate, the request to operate and maintain their water and sewer facilities. In this case, we're talking about the water facility. We have the people to operate the system. Both Pleasant Ridge and Sylvan Lake are relatively small systems. We've met with Sylvan Lake several times over the last few years to discuss the possibility of taking it over, and they finally decided that they would prefer us to do it. So I take any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions on this item? Seeing none, why don't we prompt the vote on the City of Sylvan Lake Operations and Maintenance Agreement for its water system?
Whiteberg?
Yes.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Takes us to item 9G. Thank you.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Supported by Mr. Cavell. The floor is yours, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, this goes along with the water system. They've also requested that we operate and maintain their sewer system as we do with the other. And we have reviewed that with our sewer maintenance unit, and we are capable of handling that.
Thank you. In line with our previous reports, are there any questions for this item? Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
Whiteberg? Oh, showed up. 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Great, motion carries. Item 9H, please. I'll take a motion to open the, thank you, the Smart Interlocal Agreement for Veteran Transportation Program. Mr. Whiteberg moved, Mr. Cavell supported, and looks like we have Garth with us. Hi, Garth. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. This is a request for approval of an interlocal agreement between Oakland County and SMART. We are going to be offering free transportation for any veteran or dependent in Oakland County from their place of residence to our office in either Pontiac or Troy. It's provided free of charge. We've been working with SMART. We've been working with Corporation Counsel, obviously, William DiBiase, and we came up with this agreement, which will allow for point-to-point transportation to our offices. And we are looking for approval. This is totally funded through our County Veteran Service Fund grant, which has previously come before the board and been approved by this board.
Thank you, Garth. Mr. Cavell? Nothing? No, I know you got something.
Oh, yeah. I think we have the same thing.
Okay.
We'll probably get there eventually, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. Hello, Garth. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. My first question is, if I've read the resolution correctly, it ended at September 1st of this year? Is that correct?
It's a fiscal year 22 grant funding, so it will end. We anticipate, we've already put in our application for fiscal year 23 grant funding.
Right.
And we believe this will be part of that grant in fiscal year 23. So even though this agreement, because of the grant funding ending in fiscal year 22, lists that end date, we anticipate going forward and having it again in fiscal year 23.
Okay, that's good. I guess my real question is, since today is April, and it's September, is $150,000 for those 6 months only? Or, I mean, that's where I get into a little bit of conflict on the dollar amount.
Yeah, it is for the 6 months. Now, whether we will use all those funds is, we're not sure. We don't really know for sure what kind of, usage we're going to get from this grant. We wanted to make sure we had adequate funds, going forward. And, if we see that it's not being utilized a lot, we may come back to the board and ask for to move those funds around in the grant. We can do that up until the end of the third quarter of this fiscal year.
All right, since we're only paying $45 per ride, we may not use that.
Correct. And if the funds are not used, it goes back to the state, but it's just added to the fiscal year 23 grant funds that the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency will then distribute to the counties for that fiscal year 23 County Veteran Service Fund grant.
All right, and my final question before I hand it over to Charlie is, what do we do today to provide transportation to them? If this is not there, how do they get it across the county? Is there any other system or services we use outside of SMART to do it today, or do we have a different contract with SMART today to do veterans transportation?
We have never had any kind of transportation program to get veterans to any of our offices. We have a transportation program that runs from our office to the VA Medical Center in Ann Arbor or VA Medical Center in Detroit, but that's obviously much more limited. We've never had anything that provides a service of this nature to get them actually into our office.
I did say one final question, but I do have one of. So this program will pick them up at their home or at
Correct.
a stop? Okay, thank you.
Yep, it's point-to-point transportation.
Thank you. Mr. Cavell?
Yeah, so this is the state funding that doesn't allow us to do anything but pay for people getting to appointments at the offices, not pharmacy or doctor or groceries or anything. Right?
Correct. The intent of the County Veteran Service Fund is to connect veterans to their federal benefits, kind of bring more dollars into the state of Michigan from the VA. So we're doing that by getting them into our office to then apply for those federal benefits and do the claims on their behalf. So that's the connection to increasing veterans' federal benefits receipts.
When you apply for next year's grant, is there any opening you foresee in being able to ask for more transportation assistance funding related to those needs people meet?
You mean to transport anywhere, point to point, pharmacies, grocery stores?
Yeah. Any expansion other than just like Troy and Pontiac office meetings?
Again, given what we've been told is the intent of the fund, I can check if there's any wiggle room on that going forward, but we want to make sure that we're meeting the intent of that grant funding.
Okay.
Good question. Mr. Smith?
Yep, and to follow up on what Charlie was asking there, since we're only going to be transporting them point to point from their home to our offices, is there any way we could do a survey during that time? So we can collect data, because I'm a big data guy. So I'm hoping to see good KPIs out of this over the next 6 months on how many users we have, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd like to also get some additional data from those individuals. Would they like transportation to their doctors? Where would they need additional support to help them get to where they need it? Is it grocery stores? Is it their doctors? Is it the pharmacy? Which I all expect to be yes, but I don't know what I don't know right now. So if I can get additional data to help support that, they might help you when you go in for these grants. Say, hey, I have all this data. they're looking for this additional service, how do I get it to them, and can I use it?
That is something we can certainly do. I'll get with Smart and see if that can be part of, because they're going to be calling Smart directly to, we've got a dedicated phone line and a dedicated email address to see if they can add that as part of their process to just have a survey say, you know, in the future, would you be interested in transportation, free transportation, these type of areas, something of that nature.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have a question from Ms. Markham.
Yeah, just kind of related to that, how are you communicating this availability to the veterans? I mean, I think of a couple of people I know that are in their 60s, they're Vietnam vets, and I'm not even sure they know what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? So how do you let them know that this exists and the purpose of this is to really help them get more benefits, have somebody help them get more benefits? How do they know that?
Yeah, we've got we've allocated a portion of the funding for the County Veteran Service Fund grant for marketing, and we've actually got a meeting with Laura Dodd and her team next week. We're going to utilize those funds for marketing, both radio, cable TV, newspaper print, also direct emailing. So we're going to have a comprehensive marketing program to make people aware both of our office and what we do, and also of this transportation program. So we're going to be able to get the word out there. We've got a pretty substantial amount of funding to do that.
Good. All right, thank you.
Great questions, commissioners. Thank you so much. If nothing further, we'll go ahead and prompt the vote.
We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. Nice to see you, Garth.
Thank you. Thank you.
That takes us to 9I, where we will be approving the Memorandum of Understanding between the County of Oakland and the Oakland County Business Finance Corporation. A motion to go into that report. Mr. Weipert and Mrs. Markham. I want to get your name on the minutes somewhere.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Rassigan, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Just kind of wave that you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Oh, very good. Good afternoon. And I am Kathy Raskin. I am the financial services team here in economic development. And what we have today is a renewal of our Memorandum of Understanding. So just a brief bit of background, because I am conscientious of the time there, but the Business Finance Corporation is what's called a certified development company, and we are approved by the federal SBA, Small Business Administration, to administer their SBA 504 loan program in the state of Michigan. That entity, the BFC, is a separate 501 entity, standalone, and we've been certified since 1982 to do fixed asset financing to small businesses. Companies have to have a CDC. They have to use a group like ours in order to access this SBA program. The original MOU, which we're required to have via the Code of Federal Regulations and SBA regulation, was done in 1988. And then in 2017, after some audits, the SBA really wanted that beefed up. So 2017, we had the first significant one that was approved by the Board of Commissioners, and it was for a 5-year term. That term obviously is up, and so we are looking for a renewal. We did provide the original and some redlined, because obviously federal programs make different changes over the years. The main changes from the prior would be that they wanted us to incorporate a conflict of interest policy within our board and staff, which we have done, so that is referenced. They wanted within the MOU that any new staff or board member does have to go through a character determination. It's not a new rule. That's been in place for a long, long time, but they wanted it within this document. was not difficult to add. And then just a reminder of confidentiality, since we are dealing with private businesses and owners and a lot of their confidential financial information and background. They wanted us to beef up a section within the MOU that obviously I don't broadcast what somebody's 2020 tax return looked like, just to use a very never would happen scenario, but to give you an idea of that. So those were the main changes to the MOU, and obviously the date as well. And it has been looked at by, as was the first one, by Corporation Counsel. So we did that first and have their email approval of the review as well.
Thank you. Very comprehensive. Questions or comments from members of the committee? And we will then go ahead and take the vote for this. Please prompt the vote.
Wiper?
Yes.
There's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Rastigan. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Item 10 on the agenda
It's okay, we got you.
is our second public comment. And if there is anyone from the public who'd like to address the committee, please come to the front of the room, and this can be on anything. Time is limited to 3 minutes. And I do see someone here to address the committee. Your name, if you would, and community of residence.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Kennedy from Lake Orion, and I did reference back to the May 26 meeting minutes where the CEED lending program was announced, and it seems to be actually what Mr. Carlson was talking about, but the numbers seem to have grown a lot since that point. So I do think we need to review that. And he mentioned specifically the economic output report was done last year. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want last year's information for an economic report. And as of June 9th, 2021, we had lost 25% of our business in Oakland County. And on the December 6, 21 meeting, it was disclosed that there was a $64 million deficit in Oakland County budget when they did the audit for 2021. They had less revenue than expected. And so there was a transfer to fix that adjustment in a separate meeting on December 6th, because those 4 items had been pushed from December 1st. And then I do see, in this project, we have a $4 million budget shortfall. And you can look at page 158 for the next meeting at 11. And we're expecting to have 160 to 200 businesses contracted to benefit 350 entrepreneurial prospective entrepreneurs. As a former entrepreneur, I can tell you, money isn't what drives entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are creative, resourceful people, and if they're going to succeed, they're going to succeed in spite of it. In fact, it'll make them more motivated. The people that do that are more motivated by challenges. So anybody who is not self-motivated individually isn't going to succeed in business, is my view. So the fact that we have a loan program only for the people that don't have the initiative or don't have the credit available to self-finance, that to me is a recipe for disaster. And I would like to know, we keep talking about medical services going in homes and financial services. Mr. Hobbs, I know the other ad hoc senior was even talking about advising people on reverse mortgages, seniors. And I would like to know, does the county have appropriate E&O insurance for those types of additional services that you're going into communities with, both financial and health-oriented? All those things are required licensing. And then I would like to ask why we are spending so much in advertising for veterans. We're using the veterans grant. Last year it was 127. We used 27 grand of it for advertising. Don't know what we're advertising. Then they increased it to 497, using 117 for advertising. Still don't know what we're advertising. And then there was additional 148 or thereabouts. Again, there seems to be way too much advertising of who knows what, Why aren't we simply working with the legions that exist within our community that already have the participation of veterans in the first place? And SMART is a very big bus. I see them all over the place. They're picking up refugees and bringing them to our stores. And
Go ahead
why
and
would you
wrap
have a
up your
big
comments.
bus to pick up an individual at their home instead of NOTA? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kennedy. I just must, under compelling of what's proper and in order, I always like to make sure what goes out into the airwaves is accurate information, which is simply that our county is not in a deficit. I keep hearing this at the public comment lectern, and I just want to make sure that folks are paying close attention to finance meetings and our commission meetings, which are streamed live on YouTube. With that, I will go to item 911, which is other business. Seeing none, this meeting of the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee is adjourned.
Nice job,
Way to go.
Chair.
Great job.
Good filling in.
Even William texted.